Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the
There is
fruit
no
of thy
trace
womb,
of
Jesus.
suffering or
Holy
even
Mary,
joy
Mother
in
of
this
God,
Mary's
pray for us
face.
sinners, now
But it
and
is
at the
not
hour
the
of our
alabaster
death. Amen.
emptiness of her gaze these people see as they pray. It is the Mary whose pain at the loss of her Son, Jesus Christ, resembles their own.
Mary's role for us as Christians is humanizing. It's somebody that we can relate to.
There's this image of Mary. And
Father Neil Connolly is pastor of St. Mary's Roman Catholic Church on the Lower East Side of New York City.
In that little corner of the church, you have a lot of statues and pictures of Mary.
20% of all Roman Catholic places of worship in the United States, nearly 4,000, are named for Mary.
Her position also is a very iconic position in the sense that people admire so much her life, what we know about it.
But what exactly do we know? Mainly, what little is written in the Gospels of the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Mary, or Miriam, or Mariam, was from the little town of Nazareth, population maybe 400 in the first century. She was Jewish and would have spoken Aramaic.
at the age of about 12, she would have be considered to be mature, so that when she was, as the New Testament describes her, betrothed to Joseph, she would have been a teenager, anywhere from 12 onwards. Exodus, out of the way. So Exodus.
Professor Deirdre Good is a New Testament scholar at the Episcopal General Theological Seminary in New York City.
What Mary represents in Christian tradition is the meeting of God with humanity.
We learn from the New Testament that the angel Gabriel visits her and announces that she will bear a child.
And this child is from God, and Mary says, "How is this possible? Because I don't know a man." That's what the Greek actually says. I don't know a man. It's translated euphemistically as "I am a virgin."
The Gospels tell the Christmas story, how Mary gives birth to Jesus. During his adult ministries, she is seldom mentioned, although Mark describes what has been interpreted as a rift between them.
Jesus is teaching and someone says, "Your mother and brothers are outside and want to see you." Then he says, "Well, who are my mother and my brothers?" And he looks around at his disciples and he says, "These are my mother and my brothers."
Professor Craig Evans is a New Testament scholar from Acadia University in the Canadian province of Nova Scotia.
There's no interaction. That definitely does point to a little bit of tension, at least at that point, between Jesus and his family.
Only one of the Gospels places Mary at the crucifixion, alongside the so-called beloved disciple.
John was told by the dying Jesus on the cross to take Mary and look after her. The tradition is that John takes Mary to Ephesus.
Ephesus, the ancient city in Turkey, where today pilgrims visit the house in which she might have spent her final days, her role as supporting cast member in the story of Jesus, on the verge of changing dramatically.
Once the significance of Jesus settled firmly on his following in the aftermath of Easter, then people started asking, what is it about Mary?
You can see her take on glory in art.
We start to see Mary maybe at the end of the 3rd century. It's usually in a scene we would think of as a nativity scene, but it's a very specific one, the Adoration of the Magi.
Professor Robin Jensen teaches the history of Christian art and worship at Vanderbilt University.
Well, most all of our early Christian art comes from Rome and maybe Italy, because it sort of survived there.
Early Christian art existed literally underground, in chambers known as catacombs, on walls and coffins.
We don't see Mary as so important in and of herself until the beginning of the 5th century. Shortly after the Council of Ephesus, which was in 431, when they declared her to be the Theotokos, the God-bearer, Mother of God. And then everything changes, and she starts to appear enthroned with a child on her lap, with angels and saints around her. That is when she becomes important.
By the Middle Ages and Renaissance, paintings of Mary could be read for symbols of her holiness.
Her outer mantle is blue, and underneath she usually, not always, has red robes. One interpretation of this, and I think it's right, is that's a symbol of her fleshliness, her body, her blood that supports the child in the womb.
What does the blue mean?
Well, it's a divinity, I think. It's a sign of the heavens. She's also a heavenly being and something queen of heaven.
Rarely is Mary shown as anything but young, although by 1400, when this old, tearful Mary was painted, her suffering had become central to our understanding of who she was. Although her anguish is nowhere in the Gospels, not even this, her collapse when she sees Jesus on the way to his crucifixion in this reenactment on Good Friday.
And you must leave here because they will come looking for his followers.
So why is a different Mary shocking?
I am not one of his followers!
Irish actress Fiona Shaw plays Mary late in life.
Yeah, not one of you was normal, I said.
Angry, tortured by doubt, as she remembers.
It's a sort of almost a hunger to create this woman.
My son appeared. Oh, he was wearing rich clothes.
Colm Tóibín wrote The Testament of Mary, now on Broadway.
Is what you've done sacrilege?
Anyone who looks at the story of Christianity, of the crucifixion itself, must wonder, even on the best days, even, on Easter Sunday, I wonder if there's any other way to look at it. And so I'm offering that as an artist.
His provocative take isn't the only alternative Mary story. In early Jewish texts, she was a harlot, the virgin birth untrue. She also appears in the Quran, honored by Muslims above all other women. Who was she really? The answer depends on the eye and the heart of the beholder.